welcome back to Poor Boys. In one of my recent videos, I think you guys remember, I had this cool little 72 Dodge Charger. A friend of mine brought it over. He caught me in a good mood one day and asked me if he could drop it off and I could get it running and driving. It hasn't run in some time now, and I didn't have anything going, so I was like, yeah, go ahead and bring it over. And literally 10 minutes later, he was here and we were getting it off the trailer out on the street. So pushed it in. Turned out it is a U-code car. It's got the 440 in it. My buddy asked me if I could figure out if it's a numbers matching car, and we went through it. I went through all the numbers on it. It ended up being a 75 through 77 RB block. So it's not, unfortunately, it's not a numbers matching 440 to the 72, but that doesn't mean it's still not cool, because, you know, 440s put out a lot of torque, and they're still a great motor and a fun motor if you just want to, you know, rip tires or, you know, just take it around the block. So they sound great right out of the box, and who doesn't love a 440, right? So what we had to do was, I had a couple buddies come over, and she wasn't that easy to get started. I usually could always get these things going, no problem. You know, it's always points. You know, I always tell you guys about it. Distributor. I mean, it's always the little things that get you on these, a coil or something like that. But we know on the Mopar that it's got the electronic ignition. So let me show you a little bit about what we did here. So on these old Mopar, in my experience, I always have a problem with the electronic boxes. They either go bad, or they're not hooked up right, or just over time, the little porcelain blocks go bad. It's always just something. It's like the three items. It's either the electronic box, the porcelain ballast resistor, or the distributor itself. So they come in kits now. They're about 150 bucks, 140 bucks. And I've done things where I've just tried to switch out a box because I got them on the shelf, or the ballast resistor. And usually, in my experience, it's just better to buy all three components as one. So then they all jive with each other, and they always end up working great. So we did that. She fired, and it still didn't really fire right off the bat. We still had to do some finagling. My buddy came over. We went through the carburetor, took it all the way down to the jets. It had a little bit of junk in it, but it was kind of froze up. So there were some linkages we, you know, got working. And what I always do off the bat too, when I'm having trouble with the Mopar electronic ignition, is I just bypass it with this MSD box, and it just takes all the pain and aggravation out of trying to get those all that Mopar electronic stuff to work. So we'll do that, and then I know right off the bat, okay, it's the three culprits. So we got that all in. We redid his wires for him. Let's see, what else did we do? Just did his battery cables, made his connections a little bit nicer, and it turned out pretty nice for, you know, what you could expect on a lot of these old cars. Now, I did the fender tag. I decoded it all. I mean, I'll tell you a couple things on it. It's got the 3-speed variable wires. It's got the dual exhaust with tips. What is kind of cool about this is that it does have the concealed headlamps, and I did end up getting those going. Now, these little motors here, if you guys want to try to take these out and go ahead and clean them, they're not that painful. What I did was I put it up in my vise, and I just kind of took it apart and looked at the brushes, the little mechanisms inside. And what it ended up being was there's little contactors. There's an open and close contactor, And I got those working, filed them down just a little bit, took a little sandpaper to them. I ended up putting the headlights back, or the motor back in, and on the open, I was doing great, but then I could not get her to close. So I started scratching my head and I was thinking, you know, okay, the motor is probably bad. And I gave it one more shot, took it apart. Turned out my contactors weren't making contact on the close end. And we got that working, and I put it back in, and now she works great. So it's an awesome feature on these 72s. It's something you don't see all the time, and there's nothing cooler than seeing, in my opinion, the headlights open and close on these old Chargers. So let me at least try that for you guys, and we could try to go for a ride this thing. See how she does. So the open end works really good. As you can see, she's quick too. It's fast. And I remember when I first tried, I was sitting there doing the manual. There's a little manual button underneath, or a little twist cap, and you could close them if the motor goes bad, or open them like that. So I was opening them up, and then I had to twist cap them to get them to shut. So now they work great, and I'm pretty happy with it. And that also, you know, this kind of stuff right here, when you guys go ahead and at least attempt to try to get these things working, this motor here it's like $250, almost $300, give or take. You know, I might be a little off on that. But the stuff's expensive, so to get this stuff working, man, that's a win-win for everybody. And like I said, this car is not a bad car. It does got a little bit of plastic in it here and there. It was a vinyl top car. Frame rails in it are awesome. The pans are great. It's got the 8 3/4 in it, of course. So, but we did the Fender tag. It ended up being a U-code 440, 280 horsepower. Like I was telling you, it has the front disc brakes, which is a cool conversion for, you know, for these kind of cars. Way better than the drum, of course. And has the max engine cooling. It is an AC car, and the list goes on. So you guys can check that out if you like. So when I do a lot of these old Mopar, and you know, like I was talking about, all the ignitions are always, the electronic ignition boxes seem to go bad a lot, kind of like points. And with the electronic ignition boxes, you know, it eliminates the points. So when I have cars with points, those go bad. When I have cars with Mopar with the electronic boxes that have been sitting for years, those seem to go bad. So I used the ProForm, and it's a little cheaper version, but it seems to do the job. I haven't had any issues with any of them yet. And they're the electronic conversion distributor kit. Like I said, $150. Comes with everything. You get the distributor to cap the rotor, the little electronic box that I showed you in the first video, and it also comes with the little porcelain. I always want to say relay, but it's the ballast resistor. So you get all three things. Everything's plug and play. Just got to find your hot wire off the key, and pretty much everything goes from there. It's got a great set of, there's actually something that has an awesome set of directions, and you could go step by step, 1 through whatever, 1 through 20. And I do scan it over, and I do these a lot, but it seems like if I haven't done them in a couple weeks, I kind of forget. So I'll just scan over the instructions. But what I do end up looking at all the time is the wiring schematic on the end. And I just put it right on the fender, and then I could, you know, pinpoint little wires here and there that I kind of forgot where they go over time. So awesome product. Make them for all the Mopar, and that's what I use over here at Poor Boys. It's in the Poor Boys budget, so that's what we do. So we did the new ignition, and man, she still wanted to be a pain in the butt. I know it's cold this morning, but I ended up flooding her because I was sitting there pumping gas down her, and then the battery kept dying. So we ended up pulling a plug. Then we finally got her running. My buddies came over here. We were jacking around with her, and then she cleared out, and now I just ran her out of gas. So short story long, yeah, it's 72. It definitely needs a little bit of love, like all of them, but for what it is, I mean, it's a cool car, and I'll take you around and check it out, take you in the interior. All right, so we're back again. Ran it out of gas, the usual. His brakes are still, he needs all new brakes. Calipers are rusted. I tried freeing the piston up a little bit, and I got it freed up, but now it won't decompress when you take the release the brakes. And I was like, oh, no problem. We'll just, to get it back over to his house. I mean, we're just going to trailer it anyway, but just to have something. I'm like, oh, I'll just run the emergency brake. I pull the back tire, and there's no pads even on the drums in the back. So, story of my life. That's how we roll over here in Poor Boys, let me tell you. Anyway, I think I can still take it for a ride around the block. Well, no, not around the block, around the yard. So, let's see. Man, this thing still needs a lot of love. Snappy, but One time I had a 64 Impala and it had no brakes like usual. And I told my son, I'm like, hey, watch this. And I ripped it and I totally forgot it didn't have brakes and I busted right through that fence right there. Right through it, man. It was funny. I blew the fence right off the hinges. Oh, man. So anyway, 440 72 Charger. What more can I tell you guys? Did the electronic ignition, worked out good. Try not to hit my fence or my garage. And that's it. I wish I could take you guys for a ride, but I ain't taking this one out until he decides he wants to put brakes on it. This is the SE package, the Broham. So I'll do one more walk around for you. It sounds pretty good. It's got a little cam in it. So, like I said, pans and frame rails are perfect in it. I think he'll have this for sale, guys, if anybody's interested. I don't know what he's going to ask for it yet. But it will, knowing him, he'll probably end up selling it. So just message me and I'll ask him what he's trying to get out of it. But it does need a little bit of love, but it is definitely a good foundation for if you guys are looking for this style of Charger. All right, guys, I appreciate it. All right, guys, so we got the car running again. We talked about doing the electronic ignition, which I talked to you guys about. Then we kind of just took it around the shop, went up the driveway, but I had no brakes. I tried fixing the calipers. They were frozen. I got the pistons unstuck, but they still weren't going to play ball. So I called up Larry, my buddy who owns the car, and he said, go ahead and just do all the brakes all the way around. So I'm going to do calipers. I already ended up doing the rubber hoses. I did the rubber hose in the back. And we're going to, remember this car has disc brakes factory in the front, but drum in the back, of course. So we're going to go ahead and I ordered all that stuff today. And then we're going to go ahead and replace the shoes in the back. Alright guys, so day 2 from yesterday. Let's see. So my buddy decided we want to do brakes all the way around. I told you that yesterday, so you can watch me put on a couple front calipers, and then we'll go back and do the drum shoes on the back, the brake pads on the back. Let's see, then hopefully it's kind of rainy out, but maybe we can take you for a ride. We'll see what happens with that. I'll show you a little bit about, you know, how I do the brakes. Everybody's pretty familiar with that, so I'm not going to sit here and do a step-by-step for you, and you guys will be bored anyway, so I'll edit through it, but I'll show you a little bit about what's going on. Line up all your holes. Last time I did this, I put my rubber brake line on first, then stuck the caliper on. And for some reason I had trouble with that. I don't remember what it was. So now I just put the caliper on, then do rubber brake line on the end. So we'll tighten that up, and we'll move on to the next one. I think the only thing really to make sure on this is just double check the caliper that you have, the tube, make sure they're for the sides that they're supposed to go on. So this is obviously passenger side. I looked at my old one, and then the driver's side. That'd be my only suggestion. All right, so little rubber line. Make sure your little fitting here is as clean as it can be possibly be. Sometimes when I get in a hurry, believe me, I don't do as good a job, but I'm trying to do a better job because this is not my car. So clean them off so you don't want any contaminants in the brake lines the best you can. And if you're lucky, you can finger tighten that pretty good. As far as you can. And I'll just snug it up. Without turning the brake line. That's about it. See, that brake line wants to turn, so you have to be careful of that. I like using these. They're kind of like a crow feet brake line tightener because they wrap around the whole fitting, vice just a regular 3/8, and then you'll round it off, the usual stuff you guys I'm sure already know. These clips are always a bonus, don't forget those. Sometimes you could get them in with your, oh look, it got lucky. I was about to say, sometimes you get them in with your fingers, sometimes you gotta use a hammer. Double it up. Pretty easy. If you guys take it off, you know, like I said, just the key thing to these brake lines to saving them is use heat. Do not try to, like, you could sit there and try to soak them with that, all the different oils and stuff, soak them like a day out, and sometimes you get lucky, but I seem to just get lucky every time I do this. And you guys know we mess with old cars all the time. A lot of them been sitting for freaking years. The only way I really get lucky every time, 9 times out of 10, not all the time, is the heat, man. That's what lets me save these things. And, you know, crank it down, torque it down pretty good. You don't have to get crazy with it. Make it nice and snug, and you should be good where you don't have any leaks, all right? So we'll stop there, and then we'll move around to the next one. All right, so we got the front calipers on. Talk to you a little bit about the drum in the back. Usually, well, I'm not saying usually, old cars, once again, you always get this, they want to rust up right in this little lip right in here, and they freeze just from over time and water and moisture and all that stuff. Sometimes you could get lucky and take a rubber mallet and just smack them a few times right around on the lip here, and it'll break, you know, break these drums free. You have to be careful though, because these are cast, and you start smacking the crap out of them and you could crack these. Second thing I do, that's always the first thing I like to do. The second thing I do is I'll grab the torches again. Everything for us is heat around here because all these cars are so old. And I'll start hitting with my torches right in this area. And I can show you that here. So I like to set my heat, you know, not crazy where I'm gonna, like that's torch crazy right there. I don't like to go torch crazy, because that's when you're gonna start cutting stuff. So I just do a nice lower heat, something that isn't so out of control. Something that ain't so crazy. Right about in there. And then where you want to hit is right in between all these studs. That's what always works out for me. And I'll heat all this up, and I'll kind of keep going around. Eventually, you'll if you hear that pop, you know that's when you get real lucky. But if you just keep going around, maybe give it a couple whacks with the little three pound sledge, and I'm gonna say 9 times out of 10 I could get them popped right off. If that don't work, I got one of those pulleys that it's a brake drum pulley, and I'll show you that too. Thing sets up, it takes a minute to set up, but man, that thing will save your butt too. It's just a big pulley and it'll just start yanking this drum off. So all right, so let's say you finally get it off for the first time. And the second thing I do is just take a look at the shoes. You know, obviously these I showed you last night. These are bad. And I'm gonna go ahead and change out its wheel cylinders as well, because this one doesn't look too bad on this side, but the other one's pretty rusted, I can tell. And then what I like to do, guys, is take a picture, because I've done, as you guys I'm sure all know, how many times have we together done brake drums on these old cars? I know I must be at least, what, 50 deep, maybe 70 deep on brake drums on old cars. And even now, I still forget how all these stupid springs go. So what I do is I take about 2 pictures, and it'll save your butt in the long run. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back on the internet and go under images for brake drums for a 72 Charger or whatever, an 8 3/4 rear end. And it just takes time. So take a picture, it'll save your butt in the long run. And then always wear safety glasses. I guess that's the first thing. And then hit this stuff with brake clean to clean it out. Don't blow it out with the blower. It throws all that asbestos or whatever, all that dust in the air. So try if you can to use brake clean. That's the best way to do it. And then when nobody's watching, go ahead and do the shoot it with the air. Just kidding, guys. So anyway, do that. What else do we have? Oh, and then like I said, safety glasses when you're taking off these springs, because these things are tight. And if they pop the wrong way and pop you in the eye, that'll be a bad day. So that's it. We'll go on to that, and I'll show you that here in a minute. First thing I do is always twist out these little springs. And you could get a whole new brake kit with all the new springs in it. It's pretty cheap, and everything's nice and brand new. But on this car, you know, we're just gonna reuse everything. So this thing saves your butt too. It's a little spring puller, and it's nice because you're not trying to sit there and jack with screwdrivers and all that stuff. So I like using this myself. Another thing I forgot to tell you guys is this thing right here, the little brake, it's the what am I trying to say here? It's the brake adjuster. And I like to clean that off and wire wheel it and then put a little grease on it. Because just over time, if you try to adjust your brakes out with the rainwater and all the humidity and everything else that gets up in there, it likes to freeze these little threads up. So that's one thing I'll do. And then when I get it all back together, I'll show you how that one works as well. All right, guys, so let the swearing commence. I got half of it on. Not too painful. Just make sure you keep everything in order the best you can. The first thing I always like to do, I put the shoe on, and then I'll put the little spring on here, and then it keeps the shoe in place the best it can be, and then you could kind of work from there. So got the wheel cylinder on, wire wheel. These little they're kind of like they push against the drum to keep. That's what stops your brakes. So I like to get these cleaned off, and then I put a little grease on them, and then I'm able to slide them in the rubber boots really easy. One thing that was kind of a butt kicker, this is your emergency brake that goes behind your brake shoe. This little clip right here. I wish I had an easy way to tell you to get it on, but I just kind of folded it and then put it back over the little stud there, and then I kind of just straightened it out and squeezed it back together. So that one worked out pretty good. And basically just got the other side that I could think of. All right, so we'll continue to keep on pushing on the drums, and I just kind of tell you the corks. There's always an easier way to do this stuff, but this is the way I do it, in my opinion. Just a little bit at a time. Just kind of remember and look at your pictures on how everything goes back, and it'll all fall into place. Just take your time. Keep your stuff as organized as you can, and everything will be fine. Just don't get frustrated. All right. All right, guys, we're almost getting there. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Just same thing. I put a little spring on. It keeps the brake shoe in place. Don't forget about this piece of steel that keeps your brake shoes in line up here. That sometimes I put springs on. I've done this, put springs on, forget about that little piece. That's what I'm saying. Stay organized the best you can. I took pictures, and another thing I like to do is one drum brake at a time. And the reason why is because I took a picture of this spring here, and I still couldn't see where it went and hooked up back behind the emergency brake little spring here. So what do? I go to the other side, and I was able to see where the spring went on that side. So don't take all your brakes apart. Just do one at a time. It'll save you in the long run. Don't forget this little piece here, your brake adjuster. Like I said, I clean mine off, wire wheel them, and then I grease them a little bit so they're, stay free as long as they can stay free. All right. And don't forget to put them in the right direction. I've done that. I've done it all before, guys. Let me tell you, all the dumb things. And then, that's why I feel like even this day I've done so many old cars, and I love doing the old cars, but I still feel like I gotta do everything twice, no matter what I freaking do. So hook that in there, make sure it gets, let's see, the right way here. All right, yeah. So the little wheel wants to ride on this little lever right here, which adjusts out all your brakes. And then I will tighten this up the best I can, just so it stays, and it'll probably still fall out. Get it to that point. Make sure you go in the right direction. All right, that's staying. Now all I gotta do is get this little spring back in here. Watch your eyeballs. There it goes. Okay. All right, guys. Now I'll give a little smackaroo right here. Watch your eyes. Make sure that's up in there. Get a little emergency brake loop there. Now all you got left are these two big bad boys here, and that's where I like to use that tool that I showed you. And I know everybody doesn't have a lift, and I realize that, but I like to lower my lift down so all my weight's above these springs, and then I could really get a good pull on them to put them around this little, I don't know, it's kind of like a little nub there. And from there, put your drum back on, put your brakes out a little bit, just so you get a little bit of friction, and then move on to the next one. So we'll see if I can do it without having to edit out the camera and start swearing. Like I said, put your glasses on when you do this. I haven't had a spring pop yet, but they do get a little nerve-wracking. It's almost like doing coil springs. So let me move this here. Try so you guys can try and see what I'm doing here. So try to remember what order they went in. If I remember right, this one was on first. Pull it, push it on. Not too painful so far. The last one's the one you gotta worry about. I tried to just give it a little tap so it seats down in there. So my next one has just a little bit of area to seat itself too. So pull. Try when you twist this thing out, you don't pull the thing back out. Bam. So guys, that's really about the only one. I mean, the only thing I can tell you. Here, let me pull the camera off here. All right, so just don't get frustrated. Keep everything in order. Say it 1,000,000 times. Stay organized. We'll put the drum back on here, and we'll move on to the next one. And then we'll start bleeding out all the brakes and see if I could get this thing to stop. All right. All right, guys, so Dodge Charger finally done. Brakes ended up being a butt kicker like usual. We did the calipers. I ended up having to do the master cylinder, the wheel cylinders in the back. And then I had to bleed it about 10 times because I kept getting air. One of my wheel cylinders, the little boots, if you know what a wheel cylinder looks like, the little boots on the end, one of them wasn't completely seated, so I kept sucking air. I finally realized what was going on because I looked back at my rear drum, and then it was dripping brake fluid all over. So I had to start over again. We finally got it. Jaden went up in the car, pushed the brakes, started bleeding it out. I bled it out probably after that about 3 or 4 more times in the front. They seem to be doing pretty good. So what I want to do now is let's go take this bad boy for a cruise. First ride, let's see how this bad boy does. Ooh, peppy. I'm hoping the timing's gonna be good in it. I think it'll be all right, but I brought my wrench over here just to adjust on it. Speedometer sounds great. It's always something with these old cars, man. You get them out on the road and then you really see what they're all about. But that's the speedometer gear in there whining. That needs to be disconnected probably.